Depke from Depke Wellness here again, talking once more about health lies. You know, these lies that were made up 100 years ago or 10 years ago, or honestly, somebody's probably making one up right now as we're doing this video. And the big lie for today is to really uncover the lie that eating fat clogs your arteries. And you know, if this was really true, let's think back in world history. And from a traditional perspective of people who grew up in certain areas and ate certain things, who would have eaten the most fat? And that answer is very simply a traditional Eskimo. They would have had basically never had fruit, very little, if any, vegetation, and they survived mostly on high amounts of animal fats and high amounts of animal protein. So based on what our common knowledge is, that if we eat fat and these saturated fats, you're going to get a heart attack, you would think that, well, probably every traditional Eskimo probably died in their 40s of a heart attack, right? And that's completely false. And even in the traditional Eskimo language, there isn't a word for heart disease. That wasn't an issue. So the fat isn't what's actually clogging our arteries and leading to heart attacks and heart disease. It's basically the damage to the interior walls of your artery that's creating the issue. So then what's causing the damage is typically inflammation that you're living with. And then the next question is well, what causes the inflammation? And guess what? It's not saturated fat. Things that cause inflammation, you know, like even simply chronic stress can cause inflammation. Food sensitivities like a gluten sensitivity or Americanized wheat sensitivity or cross-reactive food sensitivities. If you have an infection, that could be causing inflammation. If you have toxicity, whether it be heavy metal or chemical or environmental toxicities. So you have to address what's driving the inflammatory response so you can actually stop damaging the arterial walls, because what's happening is when you damage the arterial walls, plaque goes there to fix the damage. And what's inside plaque, one of the key components of plaque is actually cholesterol. But it's not from what you're eating and what you're putting in your mouth. The cholesterol is produced in your body, really significantly in your liver, but also other cells in your body, basically to heal the damage. But when you just keep damaging the same area, damaging, and let's say if this is a surface area, and as there's constant damage occurring here, and then there's more and more buildup of plaque, eventually that's what clogs your arteries. So just recognize the health lie is that eating fat does not clog your arteries. Living in chronic inflammation is what leads to the clogging of your arteries, because of the plaque and the cholesterol going there to basically heal that damage. And as far as really fats are concerned, big reason why I want to bring this up is because there's so many people that are really either doing the ketogenic diet or thinking about it. And a lot of people are on the fence because they think that eating fat is actually going to, as I said, leave you having a heart attack or heart disease. That's just simply not true. And when you do the ketogenic diet correctly, and which is something in our clinic, we actually call it Ketosis, because we take care of all the troubleshooting areas of the ketogenic diet also. But when you're doing it properly, it's not like you're eating this unbelievable amount of fat. Because for most people, when you're on a keto diet, you're eating about 70 to 85% of your daily calories. The percentage would be of fat. Now, so since fat is the most caloric dense food, it's really not that difficult to reach those percentages. And actually, it's a very sensible diet, because fat is a much cleaner fuel than burning carbohydrates, and you get far much more energy by burning fat than you do by burning carbs. And the ketogenic diet and the Ketosis will actually have you maintaining a proper protein consumption also, so you're not over consuming protein. So it's actually very simple. It's not this incredibly huge amount of fat, but the main factor for today's video is just to help you understand that you don't have to worry about eating fat as far as clogging your arteries. You just really have to worry about something that's driving inflammation. And the only aspect that fat that I'll bring up that would actually drive inflammation is if you're eating trans fats, which are basically, those are the plant-based oils that are often, and get this is this just cracks me up how deep this lie goes, because basically the trans fats, which are suggested in the old heart healthy diet, the trans fats, when you heat them, they become, or I'm sorry, the vegetable oils, when you heat them, they become trans fats. And trans fats are another thing that would actually drive inflammation. So that's what's so interesting about this is, that we were told for so long saturated fats are bad. You actually consume these plant-based oils, but then when we heat the plant-based oil, it becomes a trans fat, which is really basically the most dangerous fat you can eat. So enjoy this information. If you have any comments or questions, leave that below and I will address this personally for you. To make sure you get the upcoming videos on HealthWise, subscribe. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.